Of confusing real estate terms here in Nigeria, and that's why at some point property buyers get confused because they don't know the meaning or the interpretation of some of these terms. They don't know what the people mean by terrace building. They don't know what people mean by when you say allocation. They don't know. Even some people don't know what they mean by deed of assignment or ancillary fees. So in this episode of Meet the Property Guy, we'll be looking at 10 very important real estate terms here in Nigeria which you should understand if you want to buy a property here in Nigeria. So if you are coming across a video like this for the first time, this Meet the Property Guy property channel, and this is where we discuss everything real estate. Either you want to buy, invest, or sell a property here in Nigeria, we go through different tips and guides about buying a property here in Nigeria so that you don't fall into the wrong hands. After going through this video and learning enough, I can advise you also go through some of our previous videos and also learn more from the different guides and advice that you have shared before. So let's look at the 10 different terms here in Nigeria which you should understand if you want to buy a property. The term that we'll be looking at is also the most important, which is title document, or shortly title. At times you are going to see a property flyer or a property description and you are going to see title, CFO, title, governor's consent, title, excision, title, freehold. Now the title document simply means the document that is on that property, the document that the property owners or the property sellers have to show that they are the rightful owner of that property for them to sell. So if the title is CFO, sometimes it can be global CFO. If it's an estate that is selling, that means the property company or the estate company have already acquired a CFO from the government, and that's the document they have to show ownership. That's the proof of ownership document that they have to show that they are the rightful owner of that property and you are buying from the rightful owner. Now other titles are excision, gazette, governor's consent. Governor's consent is equivalent to CFO. Then freehold is also another one, and then some other higher risk titles like excision in process, registered survey, and so on. Now receipt of purchase is not regarded as a title. So if you want to buy a property and they are telling you the family or the owners have a receipt, simply that property does not have a title. So a title document or title of a property starts from deed of assignment, and the apex is CFO/governor's consent. So the one title document is simply means the document that the property owners have on that property which you want to buy, and that's the document that you are going to be asking for you to verify if that title is genuine and if they are the rightful owner of that property. Real estate term which you should get yourself familiar with is what we call ancillary or statutory fees. Now a lot of times when you are buying a property from a real estate company, for example, you are going to see something like 5 million per plot for 500 square meter. Then you see other fees. You see something like deed of assignment 300,000, survey 400,000, developmental levy 500 per square meter or 1,500 per square meter thereabout. Now the ancillary fees or the statutory fees, this compromises of all the other fees you are to pay after you've paid for the property. After you have purchased the land or you have purchased the house, the other fees that you are going to pay the estate company or the property owners are what we refer as the ancillary fees. And these are also something that you should always ask when you want to buy an estate property. Just simply ask the realtor or the agent that you are talking to that what are the ancillary fees that comes to this property. How much is the legal fee? The legal fee also is the same thing for the deed of assignment. How much is the survey and how much is the developmental levy? Now there are some properties that you are going to buy that they are going to say all inclusive. You are going to something like maybe 15 million per plot, all inclusive. This simply means that after you've paid 15 million, you are not paying anything else. The estate company have already added all the ancillary fees together with the cost that they are charging you, so you are not paying anything else again. So if you are buying the property and you say anything like all inclusive, that means ancillary fees or statutory fees there does not apply. But if it's not all inclusive, that means after you have paid for the land, you are also going to pay these other fees like deed of assignments and others. Term which you get familiar with is what we call allocation. Now allocation means at that point when you have paid for a property, depending on the terms of purchase, where you are being shown your exact property, you are being shown the exact plots or slot that's allocated for you. For example, if you buy a land and your land is maybe 300 square meter or 500 square meter, allocation means that point where they take you to the estate and then they show you that this particular plot is yours. Now if it's a house that you bought, allocation means at that point where the estate company take you to the estate or where they are building the project and they tell you that, okay, house number 3 at so street is yours. So allocation is when you are being given or you are being told the exact location of your property in that estate. So allocation most times is always in an estate. It's the estate that most times do allocation, and that's why at times when you are buying a property, they are going to tell you that, okay, allocation will be done in 3 months time, allocation will be done in 4 months time, or allocation will be done when you are paid 70%, or allocation will be done when you are paid 100%. So that means that's the point when you can easily choose or determine where you want your plot or where you want your house in that estate. So this is also part of the things that you also need to understand about when you want to buy a property. You need to understand what I mean by allocation. Confusing parts or terms that you are going to come across whenever you want to buy a property here in Nigeria are plots and plot sizes. Sometimes it can be very confusing, and at times I can spend minutes trying to explain to a property buyer what you mean by these different plot sizes. Now a plot simply means a parcel of land. A parcel of land, any parcel of land can be a plot. Now a plot can now have different sizes, and these sizes can now be identified by different measurement units. So a plot size can be identified in square meter, which is SQM. A plot size can be identified in feet, which is FT, and a plot size can be identified in meters. And this is where it gets confusing. Now there is the general layman full plot and half plot, which we are familiar with. But when you are buying a property, particularly now in Lagos, when you are buying a property, plots, half plot or full plot no longer applies, and that's because land is getting more and more scarce. And that's why you are going to see some very confusing plot sizes like 256 square meter, 180 square meter, 290 square meter, 280 square meter, or 270 square meter, and see some even nice buildings on these different plot sizes. That's because there is no standard plot size. Any size can be a plot size. You can buy 590 square meter, you can buy 600 square meter, you can buy 120 square meter. So it just depends on the size that you are buying, really. So but the full plot that a lot of us are familiar with around the early 2000s is 60 by 120. 60 by 120 is not square meter. 60 by 120 is feet. So 60 by 120 is feet measurement of 648 square meter. So in square meter is 648, while in feet is 60 by 120. So if you are saying half plot, which is 324 square meter, that's 60 by 60. You get now? So that's 60 by 60 for 324 square meter. So there are other plot sizes that are now trending. We have 600 square meter, we have 500 square meter, we have 900 square meter, we have 1000 square meter, and other square meters like that. So it's just your surveyor or doing allocation that you can now understand if the 600 square meter they are allocated for you, if it's maybe 60 by 100, if it's 50 by 120, 50 by 100, or different other dimensions that it can be. So but the square meter can always be converted to a feet equivalent feet size. So you don't need to really confuse yourself about these plot sizes and conversion. One thing you just need to know is this: number one, plot sizes are not fixed. It just depends on what you are buying. So simply ask the property owners that what size are they giving out, what size are they allocating, or what sizes are they selling. Is it 500 square meter? Is it 600 square meter? Is it 1000 square meter? Is it 300 square meter? Depending. Then after allocation, which is after they have now map out your own slot for you, can now go with your own surveyor, do your survey, and they can now convert the allocated slot for you from square meter to feet. If feet is very important for you. But square meter is enough for you to do any other thing you want to do. Maybe you want to do a building plan, you want to build on that land or whatever. Your architect can always work with either the square meter or the feet. Although most times they are going to need the feet so that they can easily get the different dimensions of the length and width. So, but a plot can be any size. A plot is just a parcel of land. So it's just the size that differentiates all this. 300 square meter is a plot. 600 square meter is a plot. The difference between 300 square meter and 600 square meter is just that 600 square meter is bigger and larger than 300 square meter. So a plot can also be 250 square meter, can also be 280 square meter. So a plot is just a parcel of land. What you really want to know there is what size is the plot, what size is the land. As just simple as that. Hope you get it. That you should understand whenever you want to buy a property is what we call a contract of sale. Contract of sale. Now, sometimes property buyers mistake this contract of sale to deed of assignment. They are different things. Now, if you want to buy a property and you are not paying at once, you want to spread the payments, maybe pay it in 3 months, 2 months, or pay it in a year. The first thing that you are going to do is that your lawyer is going to prepare a contract of sale where they are going to indicate how you want to pay for this property, the amount you are going to pay for this property, and the property sellers and you are going to sign. So the advantage of this contract of sale is that you are holding down that property pending when you pay in full. So you are just trying to get an assurance and a guarantee from the property owners that pending when you are paying for that property, they are not going to sell that property to someone else. You get now? So, but the contract of sale does not transfer ownership of that property to you yet, because a deed of assignment have not been done. So a contract of sale is just simply an agreement between you and the property sellers that this property that I want to buy, I want to pay for this particular period of time, and these are the terms and conditions that is related to this agreement. It's just a simple agreement between a property buyer and a property seller, but the property sellers have not transferred ownership rights to you, the property buyer, yet. So you need to understand that. So it's after you are paid in full, the contract of sale is now void. You can now prepare a deed of assignment where the property sellers can now transfer full ownership and full right of that property to you. So it's contract of sale first before deed of assignment. Always remember that. Showing this particular term like almost twice in this video, deed of assignment. What do you mean by deed of assignment? Now, deed of assignment is a legal document. Always ensure that this is prepared by a lawyer, which transfer the rights and ownership of a property from one party to the other. And this is one of the mistakes that a lot of people do when they buy a property from maybe an individual, maybe a close relative. They just buy and then you feel like, okay, that's fine, it's someone I know. Now, whenever you buy a property for someone, after you've paid for that property, they give you a receipt or not, both parties need to sign a deed of assignment. The deed of assignment is the legal document and the legal instrument that transfer the full right of ownership from the property seller to you, who is now the new property buyer. So that's why whenever you are paid fully for a property, the first thing you should do immediately is to get a deed of assignment and ensure that the property sellers sign that deed of assignment. And also the next importance of the deed of assignment is that any other perfection you want to do on that property, either you want to apply a COF for that on that property, or you want to apply a governor's consent on that property, they are all going to be on that deed of assignment, and that shows how important that deed of assignment is. So for ownership right to be transferred to you, deed of assignment is important for that. And then for you to also perfect the title that you have on that, the document you have on that property, a deed of assignment is also very, very important. So that's why whenever you buy a property or any property that you have in your possession, you must also have a deed of assignment on that property, signed and sealed by the property sellers themselves. And documents which you must also understand in the Nigerian property real estate is the Nigerian property industry is a survey. A survey is a very important document. Actually, a survey stands at the same position as the deed of assignment. Now, what a survey does is that the survey will give you a clear explanation of your property, give you a clear description of your property. Deed of assignment simply represents that ownership has been transferred to you, but the deed of assignment does not give full description of the property apart from just the address. Now, the survey will tell us the size of the land. Is it 600 square meter? Is it 300 square meter? It will be indicated in the survey. Then the dimension of the land. Secondly, dimension of the land will also be in the survey, telling us the size of the length and the size of the breadth. Is it 60 by breadth and 120 by length, or is it 120 by length and 60 by breadth? This will be indicated in the survey. Another very key thing that is also in the survey is that the beacon numbers. The beacon numbers will also be indicated in the survey, and also the survey can also, for example, if it's a registered survey, can also tell us if that land is under acquisition or that land is a free land. So these are just the very important details that are in the survey: the size of the land, the shape of the land, the dimensions of the land, and also the current acquisition status of the land. And that's why the survey document is always important. If you want to perfect the title document of any land, the survey and the deed of assignment will both be requested for. So whenever you want to do maybe a CFO, a governor's consent on the land that you bought, you have to go to the land bureau with your deed of assignment and with your survey. So that's why whenever you buy a land, don't be reluctant. Pay for the deed of assignment and the survey plan. Have both of them, because without these two documents, you can't do anything on that land. That's just it. Which is not that too common is what we call coordinates. At times you may see a property flyer and then you see coordinates and see one kind of a jargon number there. Now, coordinates is very important for surveyors, particularly at that point of time when you are still trying to do your verification about that land that you want to buy. Coordinates will help the surveyors to do what we call charting. Charting is that way to check the land that you want to buy through the coordinates to know if the property is under acquisition or the property is free. Now, the coordinate represents the exact location of that land on the earth. So the coordinate is just simply the latitude and longitude location of that land. It is even possible for you to get the coordinates of a land or of a location on Google Maps too. On Google Map also shows the latitude and longitude of different locations on earth. On the land, the surveyor can do a charting on that land to know if the place falls under government acquisition or the place is free. So, and that's why one of the very important of the coordinate. The coordinate is also always indicated in the survey plan. When you do a survey plan, they are also going to give you the coordinate of that land too. So it may not seem too very key or too very important for you, but in case you are talking about the property and they are mentioning the word coordinate, they are just trying to mention, they are just trying to talk about the exact location of that plot and then the different numbers that surveyors they can use to find out the status of that. Is government acquisition. Now, what do you mean by government acquisition? Now, if you want to buy a land within the urban areas in Nigeria entirely, not just Lagos, in Nigeria entirely, all urban areas are deemed as government land. That is the truth. Now, for you to be eligible to have rights to build in these urban areas, the property either needs to have a CFO, which is from the government, or a governor's consent, which is almost like the same thing with CFO, or the land has to have what we call a gazette/exhibition, which means that the government have already released that portion to the public for either residential or commercial purpose. So, but without CFO and without a gazette or excision, you don't have any rights on any property within the urban area. That's just the truth. Although there are different types of government acquisition, and that's why it's also very important that when you want to acquire a land, you let your surveyor do the charting and tell you the status of that land. If the government have released that portion of land or they have not released it yet, and then your lawyer can now do the next verification in terms of maybe the CFO or the governor's consent, which the property buyers they have before, to verify the validity of this document. So you need to understand this. No land is free from the government. As long as you have not done your title perfection on that property, you stand a high risk to lose that property to the government. And that's why it makes more sense for you to buy a property in an estate where the estate company would have done all the trouble of getting a global CFO. Although you need to also verify that. Then, even after you have purchased, all you just need to do is now just apply for a governor's consent at your own convenience. So, the government acquisition, when we say government acquisition, that simply means that that land is it belongs to the government, and you need to know if the government have released that land or not. So when we say a land is under government acquisition, that means government land. A land is free for government acquisition. It means that likely the land has a very, very strong title, or the government themselves have released that land for public usage. Hope you get it now. Buy a land and then you hear something like wetland, dry land, and so on. Now we have different types of land depending on the soil texture. Now when we say dry land basically means that the land is dry. It's not a flooded area, and then you can easily go there at either the rainy season or the dry season and do your construction comfortably. Most dry lands, all you just have to do is foundation and then do your German floor. The foundation may not, if you like, you can do a raft, but that depends on you. Now when we say a wetland means that the land is moisturized, so it is not a solid land, and if you want to build there, you have to pay more attention and spend more on the foundation that you are going to do there. A dry land doesn't mean that it's better than a wetland. There are a lot of fantastic buildings here in Lagos that are built on wetland. You can build anywhere, that's the truth. But definitely you are going to be spending more on construction when you are building on a wetland than on a dry land. The building and construction process on a wetland is entirely different from when you are building on a dry land, and that's one of the mistakes that a lot of people make. So people will buy a wetland and still be building there like they are building on a dry land. The house is not going to last. It's either the house start bending or start sinking. So there are a lot of construction ethos and ethics that have to be followed when you are building on a wetland, and that's why it's important you do things like soil tests, get an engineer to do check the topography, and also get actual experienced builders to build for you. Don't just do I too know. If you are not a builder or you are not experienced in it, contract it out. Let people that know about this thing, let them do it. So you need to understand these different soil textures and the different categories of foundation and building ethics that are going to be needed when you buy either a dry land or you buy a wetland. I'm going to be adding three other terms as a bonus. Now the first one I'm going to be explaining is what we by a terrace building. Now a lot of times when I'm discussing with my clients about a house purchase, and then we talk about semi-detached, terrace, they are like, which one is the terrace? Which one? So they don't really get it most times. Now when we say a terrace building doesn't mean it's a duplex. A bungalow can also be a terrace. You get now? So a bungalow can be a terrace, a duplex can also be a terrace. So it's not specific that because it's a terrace it has to be a duplex. A terrace simply means a house that are in rows. So in that row, the row starts from 3 and then there's no maximum. So it can be 4 houses in a row, it can be 5 houses in a row, it can be 6 houses in a row, like that. It can be 12 houses in a row. So when we have 1, 2, 3 houses sharing the same roof, and they are in the same row, that's a terrace. But if it's just 1, 2, just 2 houses sharing the same roof, that's a semi-detached. 1 house with 1 roof, that's a fully detached. Hope you are getting it now. 1 house, 1 roof, fully detached. 2 houses sharing the same roof, semi-detached. Then we have 3 houses and more with 1 roof. They can have different parking space, they can have different gates, they can have different compound, but as long as it's 1 roof all through and they are in the same row, that's what we buy a terrace building. So do you get it now? So, but if you want to buy a terrace building and enjoy it, you can get a corner piece. But most times when these estates that are building these houses, the first unit that are always sold out in the terrace slots are the corner piece, because the corner piece they are going to have more space at the side than the other middle units. So that doesn't mean by a terrace. 3 or more houses sharing the same roof, that's a terrace houses. In let's say terms here in Nigeria now are owned by off-plan, where you are going to see some videos or some people marketing some particular houses, and in the video you just wonder, where is the house? Okay, now off-plan simply means houses that are or projects that are selling under construction. So when sometimes developers can launch projects into the market for sale while they are still building these houses. So depending, it can be at different stage of construction. The project might still be at the foundation when they are selling, it might still be at decking when they are selling, may already be roofed when they were selling or so. So but an off-plan means a house that is selling at the construction stage. There are a lot of very, very prime locations here in Lagos that you might not really get a ready built house, because most of those houses have already been sold during off-plan. So if you know that you are not in a crazy rush to move in, want to plan yourself, maybe you want to plan yourself to have a house in 18 months time or in 12 months time, an off-plan can be very, very attractive. Or if you know that you want to buy a house at a very, very prime location, but you don't have that bulk amount to pay at once for that project or for that house, an off-plan can also be very, very attractive, because a lot of off-plan projects, the developers are going to allow you to spread payments or to do a milestone payment, so you can pay as the project progresses. So whenever you hear the word off-plan, it means that this house they are selling is still being built. And the last time I'll be mentioning here in this particular episode is what we call semi-finished houses. Now there are some houses, particularly around Aja, Bogije, Sokotedo, where you're going to see something like semi-finished. Now semi-finished houses simply means that these houses, the developers are going to build it and finish the exterior works only. To be painted, they'll paint the outside, but most of the interior works are going to be done by the buyer at his or her discretion. Now some people like and prefer these semi-finished houses because a lot of people abroad particularly, they don't like most of the interior finishes that are being done by developers. They feel it's too inferior or too cheap. So buying a semi-finished house can allow you the freedom to do a lot of these interiors down to your own premium luxury taste. The tiles, the kitchen fittings, the furnitures, the wardrobes, you can do it to your personal taste exactly as you want them. The bathroom fittings, WC, shower, cubicle, bathtub, you can do it to your own personal taste. So all what developers are just going to do is just to build the house and then do the conduit and pipe works while you do all your entire fittings yourself. So whenever you see a house being advertised as semi-finished, it just simply means that they'll build it and complete the exterior works only. It's you that will be doing your interior works yourself. Now, there are like a couple of advantages for buying semi-finished houses. Number one is that it can be a bit cheaper, because when the fully finished houses are selling at maybe 50 million or 45 million, they may be selling the semi-finished houses for like 30 or 32 million. You might like that location and can't afford 60 million. So buying that semi-finished can easily fall within your budget, and then you can start to do the interior at your own pace. Then another advantage is that you have more freedom to play around. Unlike when you buy the fully finished and the developers have done the tiles, they have done the wardrobes, and if you don't like it, you have to now start removing it and then redoing it yourself. You might just have that full freedom to explore and have things your way when you buy a semi-finished house. So hope you get it now. That's the different terms that you should understand about the real estate industry here in Nigeria. When you hear things like government acquisition, you hear things like survey plan, coordinates, video assignments, allocation, title, terrace building, off plan. Hope you understand what all these different terms they mean now. Now, if there is any term that you've come across that I didn't mention in this video and you don't understand, you can comment below, or you can also reach us directly on our WhatsApp number, and we can help to just explain that particular terms to you, because I can't definitely mention everything in one video. So you can explain that to you for you to understand what that really means and the different interpretations that also comes with that. So as you know, you're one property on the planet, your property advisor, your property consultant, Rabi Mustafa. Thanks for watching this video. See you next time.